by the water.
Y'all know what's going on. It's time for another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and welcome to the show, y'all. Today, I'm going to tell you about this guy named Drake and his daughter, Tammy, right? When Tammy was 3 years old, Drake got into a fight in a dice game with this other guy that had accused Drake of cheating. Now, let me just make sure that you understand. Drake was this dude that had a bad attitude. He had anger management problems. He was real aggressive towards people, and he thought that he could do whatever he wanted to do to people and no consequences, right? So in this dice game, you know, the dude thought that Drake was cheating, so he fired on him. You know what I'm saying? And they got to fight, and they were tussling and whatnot, and dude got the best of Drake. I'm talking about smashed on him, whooped him in front of everybody. You know what I'm saying? And everybody, you know how it is up on the block when everybody's down shooting dice and everything like that there. Then somebody, you know what I'm saying, get to talking crazy and get smacked in the mouth and everybody's laughing at him and all this and that, right? So Drake, he couldn't take that, right? Because he was like the bully. You know what I'm saying? He was the bully. He was that depot dude, right? So he goes to his car. When he gets his car, he comes back and dude is down, and because they had started shooting dice again, right? Dude is down on his knee and shooting dice, and then somebody said, "Look out, he got a gun." So when dude turned around, he's on his knee, he turned around, he faced Drake. And right then and there, Drake popped it right in the dome, right in the middle of the forehead. Dropped him. One shot, dropped him. But he shot him again in the chest to make sure he was dead. And then he looked at everybody. You know, everybody was looking at him. And then he walked off. He didn't run. He walked off and he got in the car. Drove home like nothing had happened. Now, here's the thing. The police hit the door. They come talk to him because somebody had called the police about the dice game and the fight and then the shooting. And yeah, them dudes that was in that dice game, they told on Drake. They said, yeah, he was the one that did it, right? You can say what you say, snitching or whatever the case may be, right? But at the end of the day, they went to pick him up. Took him to jail. He's just saying he didn't do anything. That's the first story. Then the second story was that he got into a fight. It was self-defense. And then once they started getting all the witnesses and everything that's talking to them, the story was laid out like it happened. It was a fight. Drake got whooped. He couldn't take the lick, and then he wanted to shoot back, and he killed dude. Killed him. Dude didn't stand a chance once he, you know what I'm saying, came back with that gun, right? Because dude was unarmed. He had no weapon whatsoever. You know what I'm saying? So they charged him with first-degree premeditated murder. First-degree premeditated murder. Period, point blank. You know what I'm saying? So he's sitting in jail. Now Tammy, she's 3 years old at this time. She loves her daddy. She loves her daddy. And her mama, Tammy's mama, she loves him too. But Drake is abusive towards her. Talk crazy to her, smacks her around every now and then. You feel what I'm saying? But she loves him. Y'all know how they go sometimes. You know what I'm saying? And she made sure that she always, you know what I'm saying, I'm talking about Tammy's mama now. She made sure that she was always there for him. Going to the jail, putting money on his books, phone calls, wrote him a letter every day, you know what I'm saying, until he went to trial. Then when he gets to trial, he fights the case. He's sitting in there, he's claiming self-defense. That was his defense. Bottom line, right? Because all of the dudes that were testifying against him, these are street dudes, right? So they all had, you know what I'm saying, messed up jackets and so on and so forth. So his lawyer is trying to punch through on that, right? And try to challenge their credibility. But none of that worked. The jury came back, found them guilty. Popped them down. Now this is what they did do. The charge, you know what I'm saying, was reduced now. Luckily for him, to the jury said, because when the DA argued, he wanted first degree, you know what I'm saying, life sentence, right? The defense lawyer, Drake's lawyer, he argued it wanted lesser included offenses. That's what he convinced the judge to do. And what that means is if you go to trial for something and your lawyer argues for lesser included offenses, the judge will tell the jury, once the jury is charged with taking the case and going in the back and deciding your fate, okay, you can consider first degree murder, second degree murder, manslaughter, involuntary manslaughter, all the charges that are lower than first degree murder. So that's what the judge allowed, and they ruled, and they decided to find him guilty, not for first degree murder, but second degree murder, right? He got lucky. He got lucky because premeditated, you know what I'm saying? He contemplated after he got in that fight and he wanted to get the gun. But anyway, it's another story. So he goes to prison. They hit him up, right? They hit him up guilty for the murder. Then they got him for the weapon because he was a felon in possession of a handgun. So he ended up with a total of 35 years. A total of 35 years to be run consecutive, not concurrent. So he's locked up. He's locked up. He's down. And he's going to be gone for a long time. But his wife, Tammy's mama, she decides she's sticking with him. She's sticking with him. So every visitation she was there, every phone call, every time he needed money on his book, she would take care of that, even though she was struggling. She was working. She was the only one working. Plus, she had to pay for a babysitter because Tammy was 3 when this happened. So she was struggling, but she loved her man. She ended up moving into the projects, you know what I'm saying, getting some Section 8 housing, you know, because she couldn't keep up with the bills that were coming in and the house that they had before he went to prison. That's how life changes for a person when somebody goes away. Their lives, Tammy and her mother's life changed dramatically because they couldn't afford to do all the things. She couldn't afford to do all the things that her and Drake together were able to do. So she had to downsize. But one thing she didn't downsize on was her affection and love for Drake. And she made sure that Tammy understood that her daddy loved her. Her daddy was gone. For years, she never told Tammy, this is because she was 3, she never told Tammy that Drake was in prison. She said, Daddy is gone to work. And she would let him, when they talked on the phone, he would stick, you know, he had the same cover story, Daddy'll be home soon. And because he was appealing the case, but he knew he wasn't going to be coming home so soon. But you telling the 3-year-old this, and the 3-year-old doesn't really understand that, but they do understand. Because one thing they do realize, you're not coming through the front door. But Tammy had this affection for her daddy. She loved her daddy. And that's the thing about when you have a child that young and you commit a crime and you're gone. See, I can relate to that because Montrez and Boo, my 2 sons, were babies. You know what I'm saying? They were around that age. You know, Boo was younger than that, actually. You know what I'm saying? And they understand that you're gone, but you can tell them whatever, and then they have this hope that you're coming back. And that's what Tammy had. She had this hope that he was coming back. And this idea of who her daddy was. See, that's the part of the story I want you to really get. Tammy's mama, she always made sure to tell Tammy these stories about her daddy that were not totally true. How loving he was, how caring he was, how nice he was. And that planted in Tammy's head the idea that her daddy was a good person, a great person. And then when she talked to him on the phone, he talked to her like, you know how daddy would talk to her, hey baby, how you doing? Playing with her on the phone, cracking jokes, got her laughing. Even though, you know, a little baby at that age ain't gonna stay on the phone all day. Listen to your voice, they get on down. But it was just to make sure that she was familiar with what his voice sounded like. And he wanted that more than Tammy's mama did because he wanted to make sure that no other man replaced him in her heart. So he would get on the phone and talk to her as much as he could, as much as she would stay on the phone, for that matter, you know. So time goes on. The sentence is building. And Tammy's mother, she finds somebody that is giving her some attention at work. And she's lonely. So she develops a relationship with this man. But she doesn't tell Drake. But Drake can tell that her behavior is a little different. You know what I'm saying? It's like she's not getting home at the same time. She's not as enthusiastic and happy when she answers the phone. It's not that she's upset with him or anything like that. It's just that her attention, her focus is not 100% on him anymore. And he notices that. See, people in prison, we notice the real little small stuff. Any change in the behavior, we pick up on it. We may not say anything, but we pick up on it because this is all we have. All we have is the connection and with the people that we associate with on the outside. And everything about them becomes super, super important to us. And what I mean by that is like the changes in behavior, the way that you sound when you say good morning or good night or I love you and all this thing. Any inflection, any difference in that tone, we notice that. And it makes our minds race wondering, has something changed? Do she still love me? All of those types of questions. You know what I mean? So he notices this and he doesn't say anything. He understands. He understands. So she's continuing to see this guy, but she's never letting him come to the house so that Tammy would see him. She's not into him like that. But she's still going to visit Drake at the prison, right? So she goes to the prison and she's visiting him, and when Drake has those opportunities, he lets her see that ugly side of him. Like if Tammy goes to sleep, because she's still a baby. You know what I'm saying? At this time, even though she's about 5 years old, she takes a nap. You know what I'm saying? So while she's asleep and he's holding her or Tammy's mother is holding her, he says these wicked, evil things to her, letting her know that if he ever finds out for sure that she's having a relationship with somebody else, he was going to make sure she paid for it. And she would look at him with fear in her eyes and say that she understood and she wouldn't do him like it. She would lie to him, of course, because she knew. She had suffered beatings by him before. So she knew what he was capable of. She knew what he was capable of. But Tammy had no idea. She loved the idea of who her daddy was. She had no idea who he really was. So time goes on and Tammy's mom breaks up with this guy and things start to get back to normal. But the years are still clicking by. The years are still clicking by. And he notices all of these different changes. But the whole time, he's not talking to any other woman. He's not talking to any other woman. He's focused on her. Because at the same time, his self-esteem is so low that he doesn't believe any other woman would mess with him anyway. Plus, he knows he's this monster. He knows it. And he knows that Tammy's mom is the only one that has ever been able to put up with him. So he sticks with her. It's her or nobody. So a few more years click by, and she starts to talk to this other guy. And it was the same thing. He notices the change. She sees this guy, she likes this guy, but she doesn't dare bring him home. Tammy's a little older. She'll be able to understand that something's different and who is this man, and she might slip up and say something to Drake about it, her father. But so Tammy's mom doesn't make that mistake. She doesn't make that mistake. But she notices, Tammy notices that she's staying at the babysitter a little longer after she gets out of school. But it's no big deal to her. She notices that her mom, is happier some days and some days she's not. And she asks her about it, you know what I'm saying? Because kids are very, 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 very perceptive. And her mom says, no, she's just having a bad day at work. And this is training Tammy mentally to pick up on cues of people's behavior. And then she notices sometime after Tammy's mom gets off after her mom gets off the phone with her dad, that she's sad or she's crying and all of this and that. And Tammy would ask her what's wrong while she's hugging her, right? And you got to keep in mind, Tammy's a baby. She's still a kid, rather. So her mama would tell her, no, nothing's wrong. I'm just having a bad day. But she started to notice the pattern. She got off the phone. She said she was on the phone with Daddy. Now she's crying. What's going on? So one day, when they were at the prison visiting Drake, Tammy asked him, she said, Daddy, why you make Mama cry? So Drake looked at her and said, what do you mean? And he looked at Tammy's mom. And she said, every time Mama gets off the phone with you, she's crying. Why are you making Mama cry? She's a child. She's trying to look out for her mama. And Daddy said, I don't make your mama cry. What did she tell you? He's more concerned about what Tammy's mom told her versus his behavior. So Tammy's mom, she tries to intercede, and she tells Tammy that, no, Daddy don't make me cry. Daddy don't make me cry. And then Tammy just sits there and says, well, okay then. And she moves on, right? But again, like I said, kids are very perceptive. And she notices that her daddy is looking at her mom with a mean face. She knows what a mean face is. So she starts to realize that something is wrong. And it's going against the idea of who she thinks her father is, right? She looks at her mom, you know what I'm saying, and she's starting to figure out something's off here. So it makes her wonder, because her mom is her main caregiver. The mom is the one that tucks her in at night and holds her when she's sick and rocks her to sleep when she's afraid. So she becomes more protective of her mom than her dad. But she loves her dad. She has this idea in her head of who her dad is. Her dad is this loving person because her mom has told her that, and her dad has fulfilled that through the way he acts with her on the phone and in visit. So she sees her dad as somebody that is a good person. And as time goes on, after the first 10 years, and let me tell you something about them first 10 years. After those first 10 years, you start to realize that you're gone. You're watching people leave prison, you're watching people getting out of prison, and you're starting to notice that, you know, man, I still got a lot more time to go. Remember, he had 35 years. So Tammy's mom breaks up with this other guy after she's seeing him for all these years, right? And she finally gets the courage to tell him that, look, talking about Drake, that, you know, she has been seeing somebody and she's tired of waiting. She's not seeing anybody right now, but she's tired of waiting. And he tells her that, you know, he's working on his appeal. Everything is going to be fine. But he's been working on his appeal for years, and nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. And most appeals fail, y'all. 98% of all appeals fail on the state and federal level. But he doesn't realize that. He doesn't even know that right now. So at the end of the day, they continue to talk and try to work things out. And Drake gets sick. He develops some kind of disease. They say it's cancer, but they're not sure. And then when in the penitentiary, you're not getting the best health care. So all of this uncertainty is making him more sick. And then it's making Drake's wife worried about what's going to happen to him and all this and that, right? So she abandons all ideas of walking away from him, and she pulls closer to him. But what she doesn't realize is that Drake is lying. He creates this narrative that he's sick just so he can keep her. He creates this narrative that he's sick because he's afraid that if she leaves him, he won't be able to make it. Again, like I say, he hasn't tried it at all to talk to anybody else, develop a relationship with anybody else. It's just been her and her alone. She is his main source of support, emotionally and financially. So he pulls her closer to him through deception. And it's really nothing that anybody can say or do to convince him that he's wrong about what he's doing. He talks to his cellie about it, and his cellie doesn't agree with what he's doing, but his cellie understands the game. His cellie understands the game. He's doing whatever he's got to do to keep her. And it works. She abandons all of the ideas of leaving because she was tired. She wanted to get somewhere. She wanted a better life. He has a 35-year sentence. He's done 10 on it. He's got 25 more to go. 25 more. Now keep in mind, when he went into the penitentiary, he was 22. Now he's 32. She's about the same age. Okay? He's got 10 years in. That means what? That means Tammy is 12 or 13 years old. She's a teenager. And things are changing. Things are changing. Now, Tammy is very smart in school. I'm talking about super duper smart in school. And she's looking at all the options for her life. The teachers are talking about her, telling her mother how smart she is and how she needs to get in some advanced classes that they offer at the school. So they enroll her in these advanced classes, and I'm talking about on fire. Her future is bright because she's very, very, very intelligent. She has this understanding of words that most kids her age just don't have. They don't have. She's very smart. So she tells Drake about this, and Drake is excited about it because he understands that with a good education, Tammy is going to be able to do whatever she wants to do. So one day at visit, she tells her dad that she's going to become a lawyer. And when she becomes a lawyer, she's going to get him out. She's going to get him out of prison. Because now she understands where he's at and how long he's been gone and all of that kind of stuff on the level that she can understand at that age, you know? Keep in mind, she's a teenager. So time goes on, and Tammy's mom starts to wonder about Drake's health. And she asked him, she said, what are the doctors saying? And she catches him slipping. He tells her that everything is fine now. And she was like, well, when were you going to tell me? He said, I thought I did. And see, that's what a liar does. That's what a liar does. When they get caught with their hand in the cookie jar, they try to deflect and make it about you and not about them. And that's what he tried to do with Tammy's mom. But she had been dealing with him for years. So she knew he was lying. And she told him, she said, it's okay. She said, it's okay. She said, I had my doubts, but I understand. I understand. She said, I'm going to stay with you. But she said, I'm going to do me. And for the first time in their relationship, she was standing up to him. She was standing up to him, and he didn't like that at all. So he became verbally abusive to the point to where every time he called home, he would start an argument. Who's at the house? What are you doing? This, and that. And she stood her ground. Not because she wasn't afraid of him anymore, but because she knew he couldn't do anything about it. See, the reality of that separation has set in on her like it does a lot of people. You know, people in the penitentiary get to talking crazy because they start to lose control over the individual that they are in a relationship with on the town. And they can't handle it. And their last resort, that Hail Mary, you know, that last touchdown throw, hoping to get it into the end zone, is anger, threats, intimidation. And it works a lot of times. But in this situation, it did not work. It did not work. And Tammy's mom wasn't going to allow it anymore. She wanted to see somebody. She wanted the touch of a man. And it was nothing, absolutely nothing that Drake could do about it. She knew that. He didn't have those type of relationships on the streets where he could send somebody by there to do something to him. He had nurtured none of that. His only relationship was her. His own family didn't mess with him like that. He was a mean, bitter person, and everybody knew it. Everybody knew it. But she loved him. But she wanted to be able to have those things that he couldn't provide for her while he was gone. And that was a man. Period. She had tried all the other things, you know what I'm saying, but that wasn't satisfying to her. That doesn't work in all situations. You know, she had tried the toys. She had tried the phone sex with him. None of that worked for her. It was a temporary thing. She wanted the actual touch of a man, and he couldn't handle that. But she didn't give him a choice. She said, it's that or nothing. I'm going to do me. I'm still going to be there for you, but I'm going to do this. She was being as honest as she knew how to be. So she pursued a relationship. And because she was pursuing this relationship openly and honestly with Drake, she was able to express herself to the person that she was talking to in a way that she was not able to in the two previous relationships that she had, because she was keeping them secret and hiding. And in this one, she started to share herself with this man. And this man started to understand her in a way that she had never been able to get Drake to understand her. And they started to develop feelings for each other, and they fell in love. But she knew there was a hurdle to that. She knew that Tammy loved her daddy. But Tammy was a teenager now. And she understood the relationship between a man and a woman because she had found a boyfriend. So she understood what love was, at least as much as a teenager could. So when her mom and her talked about this, she was upset because she loved her dad. And she looked at it as if, like a child would, that her mom was being unfair to her dad because he was in a position to not be able to do anything about that. He couldn't even fight for her love, her affection. So that made her angry towards her mother. And she was bitter about that. And it pushed her closer to her dad. And her daddy understood that. He knew what was happening, and he manipulated that. I'm going to end this episode right here. You're going to have to check me out in the next episode, right, to hear what the rest of this story is going to be about. This has been another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and I say peace, y'all. I've been trying to breathe underwater.